Let's use what we know to multiply and divide mixed numbers. We're going to have to remember something we learned before, and that is we'll have to know how to write those mixed numbers as improper fractions. Why would you want to do that? Because it's impossible. Not because I said so. It's actually impossible to add, subtract, multiply, or divide without doing that, changing them to improper fractions. The steps are thus. We'll multiply the whole number by the denominator of the fraction, add the numerator to that answer, to that product, and then write that answer over the original denominator. So, once again, how do we write a mixed number as an improper fraction? Multiply the whole number by the denominator, 3 times 2 in this case. Get an answer, we call that the product. Add the numerator of the fractional part. Get an answer, and take that answer and put it over the original denominator. Okay, that's how to change a mixed number to an improper fraction. There's your improper fraction. Now you're going to need to know how to multiply in the first place. Remember the rule for multiplying fractions? Basically, you multiply the tops and we multiply the bottoms. For example, 1/3 times 2/7 is going to equal 1 times 2 over 3 times 7, or 2/21. Now, sometimes there's going to be some canceling involved, as always with fractions. For instance, 1/15 times 5/11 it's going to be 1 times 5 over 15 times 11. But if you can cancel, for instance in this case the 15 and the 5 cancel, you're required to, and then you multiply the resulting numbers. 1 times 1 over 3 times 11. Okay, don't forget, we have to have answers in lowest terms. So I propose to you that you already now know how to multiply mixed numbers.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
We're going to multiply 3½ times 1 1/3. First thing we're going to do is change them to improper fractions, and then we're going to multiply normally, like you already know how to do. 3½ written as an improper fraction is going to be 7/2, because 3 times 2 plus 1 is 7, and we put it over the original denominator. Consequently, 1 1/3 will be 4/3, 1 times 3 plus 1. And what's this going to multiply to? Well, before we multiply, let's do some canceling if we can. We might as well pick on the numbers while they're small. And the answer will be 7 times 2, or 14, over 3.
You're absolutely correct. Then you'll come again.
Let's do another. Remember the steps. Write each number as an improper fraction first, then multiply normally. 2 2/3 is 8/3. 2 times 3 plus 2. Now 7.
Now what am I gonna do?
Remember that any number is itself over 1. So if you need to create a fraction, it's just 7 over 1. So we're going to have an answer of 8 times 7, 56 over 3. It's not so bad, is it?
Yoink.
Now what about dividing? Well, just remember the rule for division. The rule for dividing fractions is to multiply the fractions by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So we flip that, and now we're back to a multiplication problem, as I said, which we already know how to do. Let's try 3½ divided by 1 1/3. First step, write them as improper fractions. 3½ is 3 times 2 plus 1, 7 halves. 1 1/3 is 1 times 3 plus 1, 4/3. Now we're going to change division into multiplication of the reciprocal of the second fraction. And now it's not so bad, is it? And there's your answer. Now these answers have all been improper fractions. What if you want an answer as a mixed number? Well, we'll just flip it back. Why would you want that? Well, remember, mixed numbers are easier to graph or to measure. It's way easier to find 3½ on a ruler than it is 7 halves. Remember how to do that? We're going to divide the numerator by the denominator. The answer, or the quotient to that division problem, will be the whole part of the mixed number, and the remainder over the denominator is the fractional part. Let's take this improper fraction and change it to a mixed number, just in case you forgot. 7 divided by 2. 2 goes into 7 3 times with a remainder of 1. So the mixed number here, we divided the numerator by the denominator. The mixed number is the answer to the division problem, the whole number part, the 3, and the remainder, the 1, over the fractional of the denominator. And there's your answer. So if you want it as a mixed number, just convert it back. What about adding or subtracting, for that matter, because it's basically going to be the same. Adding or subtracting mixed numbers. I think you're going to find that it's very, very similar to the process that we multiplied and divided mixed numbers, with a little bit of a twist. As before, we're going to rewrite each number as an improper fraction. Then we're going to add or subtract the way we normally do, and I'll review that if you need it, but I expect you to know how to do that by now. Then take the answer that you get and rewrite it back as a mixed number in lowest terms. Once again, write each number as an improper fraction, then add or subtract normally, and then take that result and write it as a mixed number in lowest terms. Let's do it. Writing each number as an improper fraction, the blue 3 3/4 in this picture is going to become what? Let's see, 3 times 4 plus 3, that's going to become 15/4. And the red 1 1/3, 1 times 3 plus 1, will be 4/3. Now we want to add these two or subtract. Of course, in this case it's an addition problem, so we'll add them normally. But remember, and here's the new twist, to add fractions we need a common denominator. You didn't need that when you multiplied and divided, did you? But to add them we will need the common denominator. So in this case, let's see, that common denominator will be 12. Looking at the 4 and the 3, I need the lowest number that both 4 and 3 go into. Now, I can't just write 12, I have to do it legally. I see in the top fraction here, I multiplied 4 by 3 to get the 12, so I have to multiply the 15 by 3, and I get 45. In the bottom fraction, I multiplied the denominator 3 by 4, so I have to multiply the top by 4, the numerator, and I get 16. Now I have two fractions that have the same denominator, and I can in fact add them.
Alrighty then.
And the answer is, notice, 61/12. All I really do is add the numerators, don't I? You don't add those bottoms, do you? When you add fractions that have common denominators. Now,
I know that, dude.
I have one more step. rewrite this result as a mixed number in lowest terms. How do I do that? Remember that we take the numerator and divide it by the denominator.
Now I want answers. I shall have answers.
So I'm going to divide 61 by 12, and let's see. 12 goes in 5 times. Let's multiply. 5 times 12 is 60, and subtract, and that's my remainder. So the answer is 5 and 1/12, isn't it? See where the numbers came from? The 5 was the answer to the division problem, the 1 was the remainder, and the 12 was the dividend. And there's your answer.
But that's so easy. I should have thought of it for you.
It's not so bad. Remember the steps. Write each number as an improper fraction, just like you did with multiplication and division. Then add or subtract normally, and then turn it back into a mixed number. Okay?